And welcome to the weekend and our weekend. This is the weekend edition for the Conversation Project's Talk About New Stuff for the weekly wrap-up, where we're going to wrap up the week stories that we caught throughout to you, but you actually threw out to us. We're going to go over 12 of the most conversational stories of the week that we collectively came together with. You, of course, gave me the votes by going to the feeds and engaging with those stories, and I pulled the stories that worked for the narrative for the day. This is cover the week that began on August the 16th. That's Friday, and wrapped up yesterday as we record this on Saturday morning, August 23rd, 2024. So 7 days and a bit of time to get you into the mood for the stories that we had going here. And these are some stories that were tops. We're covering some very famous faces, as you can see. The Call Her Daddy girl, the it girl that is Halle Berry, and the gay penguins. We have to do the gay penguins. I didn't really want to, but we have to. It's just what we have to do. As I said, week ending 8/24/2024 for the weekly wrap up. We'll go into how the stories got here in the promotion part of the section, how we got here for the weekend show and the daily shows as well. Plus, just sort of freestyle 12 stories that were engaging, and it's going that way. You can engage with me anytime you want to by emailing the show, me at the show, at theconversationinbox@gmail.com. And of course, visit our website for more details about how the Conversation Project works at thisisconversationproject.com. We're not going to stop and record for that. We've had like 3 starts for this recording this morning, so it's going to be a hell of a day today, and we're going to tell you. College football starts today. We got a game in Ireland that has Florida State and Georgia Tech kicking off in about 2 hours or so. So I've got to get these things done and get in my chair so I can watch football, because football is back. But let's get into the stories here, which include a little football in an ironic way going forward. Now, if you want to comment on what's going on, comment in the presentation, either if you're watching the video, wherever you're watching it, in the audio presentation, or just email me with some comments or shoot us back something on the X to go for that one. Enough chatter, enough rambling. Let's get into the news stories for this day, for these headlines, for what's going on this weekend. And the weekend, as we said, because our slides are out of order, is the weekly wrap up for the week ending August 24th, 2024. We kick it off with more or less the end of the week, which essentially took over the entire week. The story at the number one spot this week, no particular order in these. This is literally just the order I felt like putting them in there once we scrunched them all together. Harris summons Americans to reject political divisions, warns of consequences posed by a Trump win. Kamala Harris officially took on the role as the nominee for the Democratic Party to run for president. This is, of course, 6 weeks after the nominee was supposed to be Joe Biden. And that whole thing is a long story that we're not getting to today. Today, we're focusing on the future, the focus going forward. And it's less than 80 days, somewhere around 75-ish days from now until the election day in November. What's going to happen? Then between then, we have one scheduled debate between the heads. That's the president's guys. That's going to happen on the 10th of September, which is actually 5 days after early voting starts in some states. We have one vice presidential debate on the books. We have a second presidential debate somewhere maybe happening. But by the time we're actually sitting down with each other and talking, literally people will be voting and putting casting votes in there. So if you're not decided yet, it's kind of hard to figure out where you're going. So you don't have much time to figure it out. Now, here's the contrast between the Republican convention, which was, a couple weeks ago, and the Democratic convention. The Republican convention was sort of, by comparison, dry. It wasn't bad. It was a great message, and everything was straight and solid and on the mark to what was going on. The Republicans got this thing. We can do this thing. We can keep things going, make things great again, if you will, until Donald Trump went on the stage and literally tore the whole thing down. Basically took all the work that happened all week long and just ripped it apart 30 minutes into a speech, which went about 90 minutes total, or 70 minutes total. Kamala Harris and the Democrats had a message of unity, message of hope, message of we can do better. And other than the fact that they went really, really, really long every single night and kept people up all night long to listen to the big people speak, they stayed on message, and Kamala Harris stayed pretty much on message for what she had. Essentially, she had a 37-minute time on the air. She had about a 40-minute script, which was written, so she stuck to the script basically, except for, they take time out for applause thing there to kind of work that out. And she came out with not a lot on policy, but more on hope and change, not so much. Hope and change was the other black person. Hope for the future. Positively for the future, keeping things going, and a change. Because the other lineup, which was the old guy and the older guy, was essentially more of the old guy versus the older guy stuff, Well, now that it's the old guy versus the younger person, we now see a new vision of the future going forward for politics overall and the Democratic Party in general. Is this a big thing? Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? We'll find out in, like I said, less than 80 days, 70 or so days, who will be the next president come 2025 and how we'll look forward to the future. This is sort of like the big play against not so much Trump versus Biden anymore, definitely a Trump versus Harris, although technically it's kind of Trump-Biden in a proxy vote. But youth versus age, experience versus experience, as Kamala Harris is technically more experienced than Donald Trump. That's kind of a whole weird issue. And the fear that is Project 2025, which is essentially a blueprint for how Trump should run his actual next election, next cycle for being president. Basically taking the things he was trying to work on before and defining them in better roles, better ways. Although Trump is denying that he has any knowledge about it, although pretty much everybody that worked on it actually worked for him, and it says all the things he wants to do. Kamala Harris, by comparison, has not done much new policy yet. She still is tied to a lot of old policy from Biden, which is sort of, apropos because she kind of worked for the guy. But she hasn't said anything new yet, which is kind of where the weird switch is from. Where is the change from what she's doing versus what was done before, as she's only taken over this thing like 6 weeks into the gig. Let's find out how this thing goes. This is going to be a fun ride, whether you're a big politician guy or not. But this is going to be a fun ride. Definitely a time people are paying attention. Hopefully you are actually paying attention. We're going to get the petty out of this one quickly, and we're going to give some love to Jonathan Owens, the very good football player. People blasted me and blast people who do this, take it more than a joke, for calling Jonathan Owens Mr. Simone Biles. And I did that essentially to get the people to pay attention. But Simone Biles, who they joke about who's more famous, is a very famous person, very accomplished person, not quite in the twilight of her career as an athlete, still wants to compete 4 more years later in the next Olympics coming to the States. We'll see if that actually happens. But what she did was a faux pas that did not show much respect to her man. Her man played last season for the Packers. Very good player. Did a lot of things with Packers. This last offseason, he signed a good, nice contract with nice new money for the Bears. He was not traded. He did the business deal on his own and moved to the Bears to go to Chicago. Good. Chicago has a lot of great things they want to happen this year. He was going to hopefully make that happen. So her man was there in Chicago playing a preseason game, and she showed up to support her man in last year's jacket. Wearing the wrong man's sweater, as John Cena would say. Wearing a jacket that had Packers numbers and Packers gear and Packers uniforms on it, when the Packers are the bitter rivals of the Chicago Bears. Now, on a contract point, it's no big deal because you're a player. It happens, and the players actually love each other. They just rival teams because they basically are in divisions. But here's the thing for the fans, where they're supposed to hate the guys in other sweaters, no matter who they came from. Don't go for that. This is a faux pas that she will do better in. Now, how no one decided to go to the store on the concourse and buy her a new jacket because, gosh darn it, she's Simone Biles, I don't understand. But, hey, they let her get away with this whole thing. She wore the jacket the whole time, and nobody was like, can you turn it inside out? Can you wrap it around your waist? Can you do – no. But, hey, she'll get better. We'll give her this one. I mean, she's a 3 zillionth time Olympic gold medalist, and she's better than all of us. So we'll give her this one. Next time, she's got to be geared up Chicago style. Let's move on to this next story. This is a story that when I posted it on the Daily Show, things you might have heard, I went nuts. I wanted to actually put this in one of the hot take clips, but I did not because it was in the middle of the program, but I was almost at tears going on this one. The headline for the third story is Body of California Woman Found in Cold Storage 1 year after hospital said she checked out. Now, just a reminder, all the stories you have here, there's links to in the description. Click in the description. It'll take you to the blog post with all the links into it, and you can see all the stories in detail. Plus, go back to some of the prior days' stories to see what's happening there because it goes to the website. This is once, and so because I don't have the full script from the Daily Show, I just have a quick blurb from it. So I am ad-libbing to a great degree in all these stories here, and going long, unfortunately. But this is one that had me ready to just to drive to California and beat somebody up. A hospital in California told a family that a woman that was there, a patient, checked out. This happened a year ago. She's no longer here, ma'am. She's no longer here, sir. She checked out. She's not here. We don't know where she is. So this family has a missing person and is wondering where she's been for a year. A few days ago, in cold storage, they found the body. A body of a person who they said checked out a year ago. The family is livid. The authorities are livid. The neighboring surrounding community around the hospital is livid. The hospital has lots to answer for. There's now an investigation on what exactly happened, how her actual death came about, and how she ended up in the back of a cold storage unit for all this time. Obviously, paperwork was missed, and that's as flippant as I can be in this commentary, because I was just ready to just, because I read the story. I put it into the feeds for you guys to engage, and you engaged in it. It came in one of the stories for the day. And then when I actually got on the air to read it, I was kind of having a bad morning, having a bad day prior. And this was something that just got my energy just drained. Go to the link in this presentation. Read the story behind the story. Read deeper into this one and how they're going. It's probably been updated a few times since then because it hopefully got some more information into the story to give to people. But a person went missing a year ago. She was in the hospital, and the hospital said she checked out. They said she checked out. I don't even have records, but she was not there, so she was gone. She was very much gone. She had passed away, and her body had been put in storage, and they didn't find it for a year. We've been out of our house for over a year because of a tornado, and so they've stored a lot of our stuff away. And in months since we've been back to the house, about 3 months in the house, every couple of weeks we get a call from the storage people saying, hey, we found another couple of boxes with your stuff. That I see happening. Moving stuff in the warehouse, all of a sudden, oh, hey, here's a box. We've got another pallet with boxes for electronics. Hey, here's another couple boxes of some clothes we had. Here's some documents that were put in the back. We got shifted to it. These people lost a body. I can't get with that. Our fourth story goes to Florida, goes to Ron DeSantis, and technically to his constituents, technically to his administration, technically to the people that work for him, because they want to do some good with some state parks and make some amends for all the things they've had in the past and bring in some tourist attractions by essentially paving paradise to put up parking lots. I.e., they want to take some state parks that are like park lands, like wilderness and swamp lands and beach lands and things like that, and build golf courses and pickleball courses and, amenities for things to do and parking lots. This is stirring some debate between people who love tourism because they're like, but they come for the wetlands, and people who are ecological warriors who are like, but they come for the wetlands. And people were just scratching their heads is like, but I like to go to the wetlands. I don't need another golf course. So where this idea is coming from, I don't know. This is one of those things that is like, you wonder how the smart people come up with such, really interestingly bad ideas. This may not be a bad idea to take a couple lands that are being used. Here in Little Rock, we have a city park here that's a golf course. That's used as a golf course. That's used basically only exists because it's a satellite parking lot for the football stadium because it was built back in the 60s and it was the space out there for that. Now that they're looking to basically build a new stadium to bring more things into town and minis for that one, they're looking to revamp the park. They basically chopped up parts of the golf course to make it more park, more things for people to do on the park, not pickleball courts. They put that someplace else. Not a golf course. They literally took away a golf course so more people have running trails, and they put up another pond for fishing. Not a golf course. Let's move on to story number 5. Halle Berry is seeking sole custody of her son Maceo because she says Olivier Martinez, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, refuses to co-parent in a child-centered way. These two famous people, rich people, powerful people in their own lives are having issues with their child, and just raising the child, co-parenting. Halle Berry is saying the former husband, is just not doing things well and doesn't like the way things are going, so she wants full custody of the child. Halle Berry has issues with custody with children, though. She has some issues on going back and forth. Not that she's a bad mother, but she has some issues. Let's put that out there as it is. So whether she's going to get the chance to co-parent in the co-parency and basically full custody, because I believe Martinez asked for full custody and it was kind of forced upon with co-parenting as a way to come to an agreement. But since the parents can't figure out how to agreeing on parenting, she thinks she's ready to take full custody of their child. This is something that the courts will handle, and we'll be seeing this because we are petty in some stories. We keep up with some stories. We'll get back to Bennifer in a bit because some things are messy, and we keep up with them. And you engage in them. You want to talk about them. We're talking about them. This one's not messy enough yet. Mike Tyson feels good after health scare and ready for his rescheduled bout with Jake Paul. One of the things I've actually haven't looked for is when the actual fight is going to be, and I probably should put that in some notes someplace. But the fight is back on the Netflix as one of their, I guess they've done a couple live things so far, but one of their biggest live events they're testing out for going forward. Of course, they're going to start doing the WWE Raw coming forward and doing more events that are high ticket value that were formerly pay-per-view type stuff. Now it's per subscription. Things like that's Peacock's sort of managing right now and other places as well. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul are going to get into the ring very, very soon. Mike Tyson, of course, had the issue where he was on a plane and basically, doubled over, had to deal with the issue with his health. He's back in the ring. He's been back in the ring for a few weeks, and now they're looking at him, and he looks good. Remember, Mike Tyson is twice the age of Jake Paul, so there's that. He's also still the baddest man on the planet, even though he's now into, cannabis and meditation. He can still that much better than you, so you don't want to pick a fight with him. And Jake Paul wants to, although he's a fairly good in the pugilist sense. He does tend to take the big fights against washed up old guys and take them to more or less draws. We shall see how Jake Paul does against Mike Tyson because, as I say every single time and say even louder every time, we want to see Jake Paul punch in the face and we want to see Mike Tyson, our man from our generation, get it done. A quick look into the case that is for Derica Hambley. She argued and sued the Las Vegas Aces, saying that they was discriminating against her. That's a word I can't say. Against her. Because when she announced she was pregnant, they traded her. Now, the coach for the Aces, Becky Hammon, who has some issues with kind of being Becky Hammon herself, says, nope, didn't happen. So what you have is a she said, she said. Literally, one person says something's there, the other person says, nope, she's a liar, which means one case, one side is pretty much lying. There is no nuance in this thing. Hambley says she was mistreated for announcing her pregnancy and traded away. She's doing fine right now, or she is. But Hammond, the coach and a member of the administration for the Aces, said she wasn't mistreated. Business decision. Things happen. It's just what happened. We're going to see how this thing plays out going forward. Good news, big news, money news for a lot of people, but it's also some scary news for folks who are established. Now, Alex Cooper, who had a podcast, started a podcast called Call Her Daddy, raunchy, but sports-like, but raunchy, moved that podcast over to Spotify, which scared Joe Rogan, although he's the king of podcasts, because it was like a big potential money going to this woman taking things over. Joe Rogan's still at Spotify, although they've modified his contract and do more things. But the Call Her Daddy podcast is now moved to SiriusXM for $125 million. More money for her. This show has only been out since 2018, so it's not even 10 years old, and she has skyrocketed to fame thanks to the boys kicking off on the Deadspin network and going forward. Not Deadspin. I can't. You know what I'm talking about. The network that she's on through a podcast, Barstool Network, and then going on from there to Spotify, now to SiriusXM. SiriusXM actually needs the eyeballs or earballs, basically, because all these things are recorded with video now, so it's there. But Sirius actually needs people to watch them and listen to them, so they're going big for big content, and she's big content. The biggest issue is with people like Cooper coming in, does this mean the end for people like Howard Stern? Howard Stern is nearing the end of his days because he's getting older, and he was the original maverick to leave terrestrial radio to go to SiriusXM and do his things in its satellite world and in its podcasting world and things like that. The short answer is no. Howard Stern is still the king of all media, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon until we pry the mic out of his cold dead hands, and then he'll still probably find some way to make some money off his with years of archives. But we do know now younger talent, and much younger talent is coming in there. The part that makes it bitter for me is me being middle-aged talent and not getting a chance to showcase the talent. Really sucks because there's less smaller spaces going out there, so there's less chances for either mediocre talent to just live and survive, or talent to get better and move on to greater things, to the higher statures. No shade against Alex Cooper. The shade is against the industry and where it's going and where the money is. And the odder part is how the money really isn't there and can't sustain anything. But Howard Stern, Joe Rogan, now Alex Cooper getting big cash. Big cash, not for this guy. Of course, might be a big cash to get him out of what's going on. This story is actually updated. Next week, we'll probably have it in there because late Friday, after we pulled the numbers for this one, we put a story about Andrew Tate being put on house arrest. But the story that was out from Wednesday, I believe, that we had it on Thursday, police raid Andrew Tate's home in Romania as new allegations emerge involving minors. This was actually a major sting across the nation of Romania. A lot of places were hit by a bunch of places. He was basically one of the places, but the most famous for just being Andrew Tate. Now, as I said, the story has actually gotten a bit bigger as now he's on house arrest at the moment while they await something. There are pictures of him basically being walked out of this house, pictures with the media kind of walking with him, trying to figure out what's, get some answers from him as he's walking through. We're going to see how this thing plays out, as Andrew Tate is, I'm going to say, one of our favorite punching bags, although I get much Andrew Tate hate when I talk about him because there are many folks who are down with, Daddy or what he's doing. I ain't. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't see what sort of weird mind frame you have to be to follow an idiot like this. His content isn't quality. His look isn't quality. Looks like a jackass. Acts like a jackass, and basically getting famous for saying that he can make women who don't feel love fall in love with him, and then do cam videos for money. I'm not going to say the word because we don't want to get strikes on this video. It's a phenomenon that doesn't make sense. This is not Beanie Babies. This is not fidget spinners. This is an idiot dude. Of course, I don't get the phenomenon that is Donald Trump, because he's not Beanie Babies or fidget spinners either. He's just a not so great dude. Not so great dudes do well with dudes who want to follow not so great dudes. We're not sure to take this along the sad route or the better for both of them route, but Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck are almost officially divorced. Paperwork was filed back in April of 26 by Jennifer Lopez. She actually put the paperwork in months ago. So the rumors and innuendo and the talk about the supposed divorce papers, they're not supposed, they were real, and they were mostly amicable. Everything's split down the way. Nobody wants alimony. Nobody wants child support. They don't have children. Nobody wants any sort of monetary settlement. They're basically selling their own stuff to sell their own stuff, not to settle any money issues, but just because they're downsizing. They don't need it all. Now, we did follow up with a link that had Alex Rodriguez, former fiance. They didn't quite get married, to Jennifer Lopez, putting out some weird tweets, X's, whatever, about what's happening. And of course, we did have weeks ago how Suge Knight got involved and believed that it was actually Ben who was initiating the breakup because he got some dirt from Jennifer or on Jennifer and Diddy back during a Diddy raid or some weirdness like that. We are sad to see this happen. It is literally basically to the day. Like it's like 2 days difference that we're hearing about this. So it's to the month, to the year or so. 2 years ago, this last week, they got married again for the second time. And a few days after that, we got word that the divorce has actually happened. The divorce not quite finalized, as we say, but we are not happy this one didn't work. Like I said, we post stories like this because we're looking for conversational stories. We're looking for things that might be a little messy. We're looking for things that you guys want to get into. And you want to get into this. And we're talking about this. This is one that we wanted to work out. I wanted to work out. Just did not. Also wanted this to work out because it was an interesting tale that did not quite hit the way Disney and Lucasfilm wanted to happen, or I guess Lucasfilm is still technically the strong arm of Star Wars. The Acolyte, the newest addition to the live action scene for Disney Plus and Star Wars, is killed after one season. Done. Canceled. Decided not to go forward with a second season. I don't know if a second season was fairly developed. I'm sure they had ideas and stories, because most of the story here dealt with a sort of a pocket universe of Star Wars lore that was explored back in the days, the original 3, when everything was kind of split out with the books and expanded universe there. The expanded universe there essentially killed and then revived based around the 9 movies, the nine parts of the actual movie series, although there's movies that tag around that going forward. This was supposed to deal with some of the arrogance in the part where the Jedi were really big, hot stuff, and before the Emperor took over the Empire and basically killed all the Jedi. Before that stuff happened, before literally the Anakin Skywalker turned to Darth Vader, 100 years prior to that here. And this had the story of essentially setting up how this bigger dealing of how the Sith actually work. And going forward, and the big dark plan that had Palpatine trying to, have eternal life based on Force powers and whatnot. But we don't have that. And we don't have that for a lot of reasons. One, and I'm going to say this up the front, pockets of fans, of Star Wars fans, don't seem to like diversity in the newer Star Wars. That's the fact that now that we do more things with more diverse characters, i.e. people of color, people who are female, people who might not be of the right sexual persuasion, which we're dealing with aliens, should make a difference on that end. Don't like colored people doing the stuff. They don't like black Jedis. They don't, they love Mace Windu because he's Mace Windu and he's still not dead. He's out there somewhere. But they don't like stories. I'm saying it because I'm saying it out loud. They don't seem like stories where they focus and feature on people of color, black people, people of ethnicity doing things. People with green makeup on their face, maybe, unless they're women. But, they don't like women being in charge. They don't like black people in charge. It's weird. The Coven of Space Witches was a weird turn that no one liked, but it was there to open up the ideas of things going forward. That was that. There's also way too much. I had a bit of debate in the comments on when I clicked this out there as a hot take to go deeper into the stories. And there was a back and forth about it having potential, but it wasted it, which there's a lot of things in the storyline that seem kind of weird. The fact that it was shot out or published, presented out of order, and the storyline was sort of out of whack. And so when we got to the final episode and sort of realized the truth, how things actually came down, it was supposed to be a great bit of storytelling where you believe something happened at the beginning, you believe something happened, then you go back to the beginning to get the origin story and find how the origin of that story goes. Then you find that the origin story is technically a lie or told from a different perspective, from different people's perspective, what someone else sees, and we see someone else's vision of it. When the truth comes out to people who don't see this, essentially the main character had no idea what was going on, was literally locked away in a closet running from a fire thinking something was bad happening, to find out that the truth and the truth that was told and the truth that was believed, and in the end, the actual truth made a difference. That was as crazy and complicated as the explanation was. That's how crazy and complicated explanation that happened in the storyline. So it got a bit complicated. Some people thought they just didn't like it. And my big thing was Star Wars fatigue. In order to get down with this one, you have to understand a lot of pieces. And I happen to watch a lot of recap type things when I watch the shows, and watch some of the insight recap things for shows I don't watch. So I have some idea of the lore of things behind things. But the animated things, I don't really watch very much. And one of the weirder things with the anime things were, before the Disney Plus happened, they played onto a lot of things that were sort of the teenish age type stuff, like Rebels, things like that, things that were more mature cartoons, but because adults watch cartoons, they're there to expand on the Star Wars universe, and the characters there actually have places and expanded lore, blah, 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 blah. I'm going really long on today. But I don't watch all of it because I can't watch all of it. At some point in time, you got to do whatever, and things need to be standalone to a point where you just put little Easter eggs or someone does a quick explanation and get you caught up and go forward with this one. This is one that is essentially answers a lot of Easter eggs. That's all it does, is answer Easter eggs. And since it doesn't go forward, it seems like a lost season, just a lost opportunity, which a lot of people say it was. Some people just didn't like it for various reasons, partly because of story and partly because yada, 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 black guys. We are wrapping up today, as you wrapped up yesterday, with our things you might not have heard story. And it was, and it is, the gay penguins. I did not know this story existed, but for quite some time, there have been gay penguins down under who were raising the family together. Now, they weren't actually technically gay, but what it was two male penguins bonded together as normally a female and male penguin does, and they raised some baby chicks. Normally a female and a male bond for life, and they raise chicks going forward. In this case, the two males got together. It was harmony. It was beautiful, and people celebrated the gay penguins. Now, one of the penguins, Finn, died a few weeks ago, and they took the penguin to his partner, Magic, to sort of explain the situation, because, we have to explain these things to penguins because they don't get that when something stops moving, it's dead. They don't understand it, apparently. Or we, as humans, think life is like Happy Feet. Because that's exactly what happened. Essentially, Magic started singing, and the rest of the penguins in the enclosure started singing a song that was essentially a morning ritual to the passing penguin. It was something that was a beautiful thing to behold by all there, and, of course, extends the story of the penguins. So this is actually a fairly good story, an interesting story, something to kind of go into, but I was a bit exasperated. I've had a long week, and it was kind of like, and the ironic thing was, we put the story out there in the feed, so it was there to be picked on. I lovely saw the story. I picked it to actually give it a chance, consideration. It was chosen. It was chosen, put in the last spot because it worked well in the narrative. And by the time I got to story number 8 yesterday, it was like, wait a minute, I'm talking about gay penguins? Because I had totally, we started with Kamala Harris, and I had totally forgotten where we're going with this one. So I was kind of like, what the hell, gay penguins? And it was. And so apologies from me for being really, really kind of dank and dark on this one, because I shouldn't have been. But it's also one of those things, apologies to kind of poxes in the houses, the people who write these things, because it is kind of an odder story. Now, whether you enjoy the story or whether you stop subscribing just because I'm bashing gay penguins, let's have this conversation in the comments, in the emails going forward. But this is a story that was out there. This was a very engaging story, which is why it is here as number 12 narrative-wise. But yesterday, as it was the last story in the list, and I had forgotten about it until I got to it, I was even like, wait a minute, gay penguins? That's that. But apparently life does imitate art, or art imitates life, and penguins, while they have been observed to kind of do ritual songs like that, in the moment like this, it was something that was beholden on the folks at the research center in Australia, where the penguins live, and it was something that was something great to be seen in like as something they do out there in real time. But as of course, yeah, the rainbow, yeah, all that stuff. The gay penguin stuff is where it's kind of like, really, the penguins are gay? Like, yeah, that's on me. And I don't want to be like, well, most of my best friends are gay. Some of my best friends are gay. The gay penguin thing, that's a bit of a stretch for me. I'm not asked my gay friends about gay penguins yet, but we'll see how that goes. I'm sure they make great mimosas. In the meantime, let's get serious for a moment. Ground News is a chance to get serious, and Ground News is our sponsor for the weekend shows and a sponsor at our website. And we put them down as sponsors with inside of different various things inside the network. Ground News is your home for grounded news. And it's grounded because it's all the same news you get from everywhere else. But it's literally all the same news you get from everywhere else with the perspective of who's telling it. It gives you perspective on whether it's getting more coverage from the right or from the left, from the blues, from the reds. However, yesterday there was an issue with Ground News on the website. It wasn't loading, so I could not get some screen grabs. Could not do some of the research and pull it because it's hard to pull it off the app. And for whatever reason, some of the stories were kind of skewed yesterday. So I'm believing they had some issues. But check them out today or whenever today is to see what's going on. What you get from Ground News is a chance to see the stories from every side. They'll post a news story. They'll post basically a topic, and then they'll give you stories from various different sources. And they'll tell you how the sources lean, whether they're more liberal, more conservative, and how they're covering it. Then they'll give you a score for a story on how they're being covered from the right, from the left, and more or less from the center, how the writing of the story, how the reading of the story, how the outlets out there are covering it. And they also have a blind spot feature where you can see what stories are being covered mostly by the right or by the left. Stories that if you follow one bent of politics or one sort of flavor of your news sources, you're probably not seeing those stories. I was looking intently for how the coverage was for RFK suspending his campaign and then going to deal with Donald Trump as a background, that end and what's going forward with that one. I could not get anything good out of Ground News yesterday, but I've watched a lot of coverage and seeing how things are going just to see in general. So look for them to come back. In the meantime, while whatever is being out there being fixed, hopefully fixed by the time you see that, you will see Ground News as a great place to get news. If you are a news nerd and been following us for a while, it's time to get Ground News. If you're new to us, the news nerds are people who just are into news from all sources and want to know the most. Ground News is your place to be. You can get a subscription that gets you more detailed news for less than $1 a month. You can get their main subscription that gets you deep details of everything out there for less than $10 a month. And if you use our link, it's an affiliate link that gives us a small commission for you joining on whatever tier you want to. The link is at our website, or you go straight to this. It's theconversationproject.com/ground news. This is theconversationproject.com/ground news, and get in on the not quite ground floor. Ground News has been around for quite some time, but get in on the great news, great coverage they have there. They've been covered everywhere. Many places that you watch that are newsy, that do blogs, that do stuff like that, have sought out Ground News. They don't actually go looking for advertisers. People come to them, which is what we did as well. We want Ground News to be a part of us. We use them. So we want you to use them as well. And if you use them, use our affiliate link so we get a small commission and share in the love. We thank you for that. Quick time to talk about the Conversation Project, promoting what we do. Now, we'll do more wrap up on things in a moment, talking about the feeds and talking about the websites. Quick hit is our website is thisistheconversationproject.com. Our email address, theconversationinbox.com. Our feeds, facebook.com/thisistheconversationproject, x.com/th_conversation. We'll go deeper into all of that one. But right now, I want to remind you that that's where you can go to help us out. We just had a sponsor. There's a sponsors page there you can check out as well. We have partners as well. We'll talk about them in a second. But you can go and see all the places that we exist, all the forms we exist, and in various forms. The daily show we do, every single weekday morning, we have a podcast called Things You Might Have Heard that gives you news stories from the past day that are the tops from that day. For Monday, we give you the tops for the full weekend. Beyond that, we have links to where we do news clips, hot takes, other forms of news, and other discussion things out there in the news way. And beyond that, we have other great stuff, including links to past episodes, the full links to what's going on, links to our email newsletter, which we want you a part of so you can get these links straight to you, where you can find us in audio, and, of course, the partnerships links. And so we'll go to partners now, but go to our website, thisistheconversationproject.com, to find out more about us. Our partners, who we shout out every single weekend on these things, include the Cup of Coffee level sponsors of Harold Braxton, Colby Green, and Eldon Kidd, and the spare change, that's $1 a month, Joy Winters. Go to buymeacoffee.com/JClevelandPayne or click on the partnerships link at our website. There's also links for one-time donations at some various places as well. You can give to us as well. This is where we take in donations from you. It's there. You help us fund, just like everyone else asks for patrons, asks for partners, asks for sponsors. This is our chance to do it as well. So if you think we're doing great things and want to help us out going forward, consider being a partner. We would love it because it helps us do more things. We've had so many milestones in the past year. We had milestones in the past 2 years, despite serious setbacks, including being homeless for a bit of a time because tornadoes don't like your homes to stand up, and they fight them and beat them down. But we've survived. We survived with a lot of help from people out there all over the place, and especially with some of the partners like these guys and maybe potentially you. So check out our partnership page and be a partner. You get more greater things. Oh, by the way, a chance to spotlight this. New cool stuff. We have gifts for you. This is a bottle of what we're calling Hot Topic Hot Sauce, which is the mule sauce, which I love. They're just made by Sticker Mule, and you may not love them. But we have some new cooler gifts for people who become partners. So right now we have bottles of hot sauce, we have buttons, we have keychains, we've got books from other More Better Media stuff. And we're working on some conversation project themed books as well. A big one. We got like 50 ways to enter and 50 ways to exit conversation. So that's taking a long time to edit, even though they're just quick blurbs. Between other things are going there. So partners help us write things, help us do things, help us get things, help us pay for things. So if you want to get a bottle of the hot sauce, and if you're a partner already in the list, we sent you information to get your bottle. Go to the partnerships page, join up, and we'll get you to you as quickly as we can. In the meantime, this was not the quickly as we can edition of things of the weekend show, the weekly wrap up. But remind you, you can go to our website, thisistheconversationproject.com, for all things Conversation Project, and email us with your comments and concerns for free at theconversationinbox@gmail.com. Go to our Facebook page and our X page. This is the Conversation Project on Facebook and th_conversation at X to engage in the feeds and give us the news and the stories we're talking about. Every 50 minutes, we put out a new story for you to engage in. The more you engage in it, that just means looking at it, reading it, clicking emoji faces, sharing with folks, commenting on it, higher chance we have of talking about it. We go through every single day and look at the stories with the top engagement, pull them to the top, and then we sift through to make however fit the day's narrative. On Monday, it's 30 out of 90 or so. On Tuesday through Friday, it's 15 out of 30 or so. And we take on Monday 10 stories, and the rest of the week 8 stories to present to you. And that's how we get the stories for things you might not have heard. So with that, let's wrap it up. Going long today, but sometimes we do. We're still kind of defining the format here with just the 12 stories not being scientific and all that stuff. Plus, we also are ad-libbing it, so it makes a difference. And when we're more scripted, we get more scripted and more focused. If you like the ad-libbing, let us know. If you don't, let us know. We'll go to something more scripted. We'll do less. We'll do more. We'll see what happens. This thing not going to make it for a full hour. We're not doing that much. We want to try to keep it about 30. Today we're at 45 minutes, but today it just sort of happened. We had to talk a lot about Kamala Harris. We're going to talk a lot about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in the next upcoming weeks, because the election's the most important thing in the most important election ever since the last one, and the one for that, and the ones that have gone on for the 50 years and the 250 years of this nation, I guess. But we got more news stories for you. Posting right now wherever you are, whether you're watching this live in the presentation coming to you on Saturday morning or sometime in the future. Go to our feeds, engage with us, talk with us, email us, go to our website and consider being a partner, and just share the love. Share the love with as many folks as you can so we can be partners in the love of stories. I love you guys. I love you so much. Make sure you're with us for the next iteration of Weekly Wrap Up. We'll know what stories come in after we go through a week's worth of stories. What stories sort of caught my eye of attention of the weekly show, from the daily show for weekly stories that just seem to pop up just that more. We'll see next week.